Hi, I'm Nancy Laffey from Completely Quilted in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and this is the second video for the Tula Pink Butterfly Block of the Month. This is the Tula Pink Butterfly Block of the Month, and we're on month 2, which is also section 2. And so if you're joining us, welcome. We're so excited to be helping you through this project so that you can get organized and make this beautiful quilt. So if you're doing the block of the month with us, you're going to get your fabric kit, and you'll also get my handy notes. So my notes are just kind of my organization and what I've made notes on for every month. So on this section, you're going to have this big this large log cabin. You're also going to have the floating cross, and you're also going to have this teeny tiny super cute mini log cabin. Now I have these all laid out so you can kind of take a mental picture or pause and kind of work through this for your cutting and for all of your piecing. So also note that whoever cut this one out did a really good job and fussy cut those dots in the log cabin, which you don't have to do. This one's a little offset, but those small log cabin pieces look really cute with your dots fussy cut there. Also take into account your fabric placement for the floating cross. Now section 2 just has these 3 here, and you're also going to be given several fabrics for half square triangles, so you won't use all of the half square triangles this month. You could make them this month and then use them for other months. You can see here I've got all of my half square triangle fabrics already ready to go and cut out, and I'll be piecing those with the instructions from my first video on half square triangles. So this video, I'm going to talk a lot more about piecing techniques with the log cabins, which we didn't discuss in depth in the first month. We kind of just said, hey, you got some log cabins. This was one of the log cabins we made in the first month. It's also going to be used along down the road, I think in month 3 as well. So you'll have some extras from month 3. So thank you for joining me, and we're going to talk about my techniques for these log cabin blocks. So here we have the tiniest log cabin block that we're going to make. And this block, like all of our blocks, are going to have the seams pressed open. However, when I'm doing tiny little pieces like this, I don't press as I go. That's right. I wait until the very end. So for example, I have this piece here, and I just finger pressed this. I did not press this with my iron, and I'm not going to press any of these seams with my iron until I've got my whole block sewn together. So it's also really important here that you don't use a scant 1/4 inch seam. That's something that I'm kind of always making a scant 1/4 inch seam, but you really need a nice accurate 1/4 inch seam when you're sewing these blocks together. Another something to note is that when you are making these blocks on your log cabins, I always try to remind myself that the longest piece always goes on the bottom, and that's going to help you, especially when you have like lots of rows in your log cabin, that your long pieces are going to go oriented on the bottom, and that square is going to always stay in that top right corner for all of these blocks. So I've already stitched this, my next piece, which is the long piece. It's on the bottom, and you can see that it's unpressed, and I'm just going to finger press it open. The reason I don't press these with an iron as I go is because I do not want to stretch and warp all of those small fabrics over and over again. So I find that I get a much better block as I'm piecing these. Now you can see here that for this little section, I'm going to keep the long piece on the bottom. So this is going to be my short end, and that's going to go on the left orientation here. And I'm also stitching all of these with my seams facing up towards me so that I can make sure that they stay nice and pressed open and that they don't get flipped one way or another as I come to the end. I don't do any pinning here. I just kind of ease that in, stretch that in place if I need to. I'm also using stitch on my machine that takes little tiny stitches at the end of the seam. And then I have an auto cutter, so it just automatically cuts and raises that. So you can see that all of these are now pressed open, and it's staying really nice and square because I'm doing this without, and it's kind of nice to not have to have your ironing board right here next to me. I'm skipping that step. So you can see here that I've got the long piece that goes on the bottom, and I'm going to sew with my seams facing up. I think this is really helpful when you have small pieces. Just make those. My piece ended up being a little longer because, like I said, I'm mentally doing scant 1/4 inch seams, and it should just be a regular 1/4 inch seam. Little stitches, and I'll cut that. So now that this one is sewn together, you can see that my seams are just finger pressed open, really barely. And then I'm going to take that over to my ironing board, and I'll finish pressing these seams and setting them, and you'll get a really nice square little mini block. And this is how you'll make all of your log cabins. You can, if you like to press in between, you definitely can do that, but I find that I get a much better, more square, less stretched out block, especially with these smaller widths here. I'm working on my large log cabin now, and you can kind of see from the back side I've pressed some of my seams flat with the iron, and then some of these here, like this one, I've just been working just like I did on the mini one, a couple strips at a time, and then I'll go press. So again, it's important for this block, so you can see the orientation here, that your little is always going to be in that upper right hand corner, and then you're just going to be building that short side and then long side, so short piece, long piece. And you can see here, I've been trying to do a better job on my 1/4 inch seams. I just line it up at the start, and as I get closer, then I concern myself with the very end, and then making sure that this is pressed open. And I just use my fingers, but if you like sewing with a stiletto, and a stiletto is, like a kind of a device that works as an extension of your hand, then I can get those seams sewn and keep them organized, because just want to let you know, full disclosure, I had to rip some on some of my blocks. So you can see here, I'm always orienting my circle in the top right corner. I've got my short piece on, and now I'm ready for the long piece of the same color. And so I hope you have fun making these log cabins. They just kind of build each one, and then you get these really pretty fabrics you get to use. Okay, so I have all my elements done for my section 2. Remember, we have really 2 sections of section 2. You have a left and a right, so it's mirror image. And you can see here our little mini log cabins turned out so cute. And then our floating cross and our large log cabin. And then of course you're going to have half square triangle blocks every month. And our suggestion is that you go ahead and cut all of your half square triangles you need from those fabrics every month. Those will also be on my instruction sheet so that you won't have to guess. I've counted them out for you. So these 2 I actually cut last month, but these 2 with a new fabric that I got this month, I cut more half square triangles there. And of course you're getting all of your background at once, so you can cut this as you go, or you can cut it all at once if you are that kind of quilter. But I'll go ahead and sew this together, and I'll show you how I lay it out for my mirror imaging. So when you're ready to sew your other piece, the one that is going to be mirror imaged, you're going to start by laying down your fabrics seam side up. Oops, that one did not get pressed open. These ones are pressed open. See, We all make mistakes. So seam sides up, I'm going to place it right on top of my other section. That way this will be sewn and will be totally mirror imaged. Seam sides up, right sides together. And this is now my new guide for stitching all of this to have a mirror imaged block. I'm so excited. Our section 2 is complete, and you can see how it's going to get sewn onto your section 1. And so I hope you've had so much fun and learned a few more things about log cabin techniques for your Tula Pink Butterfly Block the Month section 2 video. Thank you for joining us.